Buddy, wow. It's September 6th, 2024. Definitely a time travel type of date, 9/6, which is the yin and the yang. And so we're going to talk about some of that today. Trump is now admitting that he lost the election. Now, did he really lose the election? No, but why would he admit this? We're going to get into that, a couple other stories today, as well as season 2 of the TV series Continuum. So what's all this about Trump? Is this fake news? There's something very weird about this matrix, isn't there? People's behavior, literally following invisible veins of synchronicity and coincidence. Now, what do I say that? Well, the quantum leap Trump in the back of the taxi cab, the 12-year-old boy. Here is the scene here. Quantum leap. Well, Trump seems to have burned much of his base by now admitting that he's lost. It's almost like a controlled demolition that's happening now. We're going to get into some of the details of that. Have your thinking caps on today because we are going to get into some interactive decoding so that people can see that this isn't just about my ideas and thoughts and theories. These things seem to fit together. Makes sense. Here's the Quantum Leap episode. There's Trump in the back with his father, Donald and Fred. He's 12 years old. This is from the Quantum Leap episode, It's a Wonderful Leap. It aired on, well, the date setting of the actual episode is his mother's birthday. What does all this mean? Well, we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into these strange synchronicities that seem to, as I said, follow in invisible veins of coincidence. So, all of this happened within the last couple of days, Trump admitting that he lost at the precise moment in time that a woman from Burning Man, which was completely seemed to be unrelated to this story, was taken down in a sting for illegal taxi service to and from Burning Man. So we have Trump literally burning himself down with his own comments, his VP pick, and all the other things that he seemed to have done to sabotage his own election. Let's start with this Trump implosion thing and then tie this into the woman at Burning Man. Now, everybody remembers this Quantum Leap episode. This is about all we can play of it because the copyright surrounding this episode is so intense that if you play even a few seconds of this clip, you'll end up having it taken down. Trump riding in the back of the cab with his father, he's 12 years old, on his mother's birthday, May 10th, 1958. Now, 58 was a weird year because it's almost as if Trump knew he would win the 58th quadrennial presidential election 58 years after 1958. Let me say that again. It's as if Trump knew he would win the 58th quadrennial presidential election 58 years after 1958, which of course was the year 2016. We decoded this episode in detail because it literally shows us how time travel works. Let me check in with you guys and we'll continue on with this pretty special show today, breaking all this down. And also, I'm going to show you the occult meaning of a taxi cab. Actually, you're going to show me because I know one of you is going to figure this out once I lay out all of the evidence. Good morning, everybody. Daryl, Denise, Maggie, Marion, Rebecca, Channel with a dude or something. I couldn't read that. It went by super fast. Let's get into this. What am I on about? Well, this is from the episode It's a Wonderful Leaf. This is a still shot from the episode. And his mother's birthday, Trump's mother's birthday, points back to Scotland and the Highlander TV series, which is about time travel. Why? How does his mother's birthday point back to this? Well, his mother was born 14 miles from the Standing Stones of Callanish in Scotland, which these standing stones activate on the 5th of November on Samhain in the witch's calendar. And it's pronounced Samhain, but it's actually spelled Samhain, if you were to want to look this up. So, these standing stones of Callanish activate on the 5th of November in another time travel series called Outlander. You literally see this in the opening episodes where they talk about Samhain, and this is when Claire Fraser passes through the standing stones on the 5th of November, where Trump's mother was born. Interestingly, the election this year lands on this same time travel date, the 5th of November. We also found that the 5th of November every 52 years is when the New Fire ceremony happens, when the Pleiades are highest in the zenith. Look at the cab company in this Quantum Leap episode. O'Connor Cab Company. And of course, this is a nod to the Connor MacLeod from the Highlander movies. Of course, MacLeod is Trump's mother's maiden name before she became a Trump. We dug into the MacLeod family because they go all the way back to the origins of the Isle of Lewis, where she was born. Lewis was basically a variation on the word Leodis. Leodis is Lewis. Now, all this is etymology. All this can be looked up. I'm just giving you the Cliff Notes version of this. You can follow along on this journey so we can figure all this out. Now, what was the conversation in the back of the cab with Trump in this scene that took place on Trump's mother's birthday? Well, it was about Trump's future riches. It was almost as if the actor here, whose name just so happens to be Bakula, who plays the Quantum Leap lead actor. Bakula backwards is cab, B-A-K. I wish I was making all this up, but of course I'm not. Bakula, Scott Bakula, his name backwards is Cab, Cabula. Now, let's keep going now that I have your attention, because we're going to get into what the cab actually means on an esoteric level. Wow. Now, this decode today was so spooky that it literally gave me chills as all this was being revealed. As Trump's future riches are talked about, almost as if they were telling him the future. Now, at this time, when this Quantum Leap episode came out, Trump was already rich, but think of the context of this scene. So then we fast forward to 2024, and Trump seems to now be burning down his base. This is the burning of the man. It started with his vice presidential pick. It actually started long before this, with comments and things. And we had his vice presidential pick. He could have picked anybody on the planet. He could have picked a woman, and this would have helped his case. But instead, he picks Vance, who, of course, is linked in with the military artificial intelligence, the seek and destroy weapon Palantir. And now, what's happening? Well, he's now admitted that he's lost. Now, up to this point, Trump has been very adamant, hasn't he, that the election was stolen. You guys, there are literal billboards all over the South. For those of you that live in the South, I'm in the northern South, if there's such a thing. But there are literal billboards saying that Trump is the true president. Here's one not too far from where I live. I went into Google Earth and found it literally about 20 miles from where I live. And look at this billboard. It says, Trump won, Biden cheated. This is a literal billboard on the side of the road. And these are everywhere if you drive through the South. So everyone believed this. Everyone that supported him, right? So why the about face? Why the about face? Well, let's read this and figure out what's going on, because we're going to get to the bottom of this today. Several statements that he's made that he lost by a whisker. And this is the terminology that he's used. Let's read this. Trump admits he lost in 2020, leading white nationalist Nick Fuentes to disavow him. Trump's recent acknowledgement that he lost the 2020 election has rattled prominent far-right figures, with some saying that they'll lead a campaign to keep him from being elected in 2024. At least 3 times in recent weeks, Trump has acknowledged that he lost in 2020 by a whisker. He beat us by a whisker. These are Trump's words. It is a terrible thing, Trump said of Biden. He used similar language on August 4th, August 30th, and August 23rd. Now, remember these dates because they are going to fit back in to this Quantum Leap episode, if you can believe that. Despite frequently and falsely claiming that he actually won the election and making the issue a central point of the 2024 bid, Trump has occasionally, over the last few years, admitted that he lost. Wow. So, what am I on about this taxi cab, and how does all this fit in and relate? Well, look at the most recent date, or one of the dates that he talks about losing. August 23rd. August 23rd, are you ready for this? Has 130 days left in the year. And guess what the mirror date of this date is? Trump's mother's birthday. The 130th day of the year, May 10th. The very same date in the Quantum Leap episode, and of course his mother's birthday when she was 12 years old. And if you think this is spooky, as Trump is now burning down his own base, there was a taxi cab grandmother at Burning Man who basically was taken down in a sting. Now, we dug into Burning Man and we tracked this whole Burning Man thing all the way back to the 5th of November new fire ceremony that I mentioned earlier in this decode today. We also tracked it through to the 5th of November Guy Fawkes night bonfire. It's all the same Burning Man ritual. And this grandma got taken down while trying to make a little bit of extra cash, shuttling people to and from Burning Man. She actually put up a Craigslist ad. Then Nevada authorities got a hold of it, offered her $500, even though she only asked for a little bit of money. She only asked for like $65. They go, oh, we'll give you $500. Just make sure you come back. And they rolled up. Let's just read this article. Nevada grandmother faces fines for giving rides to Burning Man attendees. Susan Holland offered a ride to a burner on her way to Burning Man, the annual summer event in the Black Rock Desert. The 61-year-old Reno resident and grandmother ended up with potentially thousands of dollars in fines after she was caught in a sting by the Nevada Transportation Authority. Here are her words now. She says, "When I pulled in, they just swooped up on me in 3 undercover Ford Explorers," Holland told the Reno Gazette-Journal. "They were coming at me so fast, so hard, so intensely. I was like, what is happening right now?" How did this all start? Well, apparently she got the idea to offer rides when she picked up a friend and a few other people, a few other burners, they call them, people that attend Burning Man, who were stuck last year in the mud. Holland had a blast listening as they all recounted their burner experiences on the ride home, and she feels like she got to experience the burn without actually having to go. And then one of the burners said, "Hey, why don't you next year offer people rides?" And so she did. She posted an ad on Craigslist to make a few extra dollars. And then someone replied back. Someone asked how much. She had no idea what the rate was, so she only charged $65 per person, and they offered her $500 as long as they agreed to come pick her back up. She said she felt like something was off. So she did all her research. She Googled it. It looked legit. She thought she could be okay with this, that giving rides was normal, as it probably has been for as long as Burning Man's been going on out there. I'm sure this was never a problem before, but for some reason, the authorities are making it a problem. Drivers couldn't go into the Burning Man gates unless they had a permit, but she was reassured it was fine to drop them at the gate. She said she thought she was doing her due diligence, and she never saw anything about the Nevada Transportation Administration in her searches. She set up a meeting spot at the Grand Sierra Resort's back parking lot at 6:30 a.m. to pick up the burners, but the burners were actual undercover NTA agents. This is what we're spending our tax dollars on, to mess with grandmas who want to make a few dollars a couple times a year. Can you imagine? They boxed her in. They pulled up. She tried to turn her car around, but they blocked her. And this is when you get into situations where you could end up dead. How so? Well, she said she tried to move forward and they honked on the horn. Well, guess what? Nowadays, if you try to move forward towards a police car, they call that attempted murder with a deadly weapon, which is your vehicle. They could have blasted her entire car and killed this woman over a shuttle ride. What is happening to our country, you guys? How did we get to the point where we allow this? Let's keep reading. They laid their car horns on at her and she was overwhelmed. She stepped out of the car and 3 NTA agents, tall, bald-headed dudes with big badges on their chests, started to search her car. So now they're searching her car. As they searched her car in the middle of the parking lot, one of the agents told her that her Subaru was one of the cleanest cars he'd ever seen. I'm looking at him with my mouth open, and I'm like, you don't say. They told Holland she was facing up to $10,000 per violation, $30,000 in fines. And this is why we do not want the law and order surveillance state that Trump will offer if he becomes president. Because they will come up with these unfair fines and laws. You won't even know when you're breaking the law. All you know is you're going about your business, trying to make an extra couple bucks. And these people roll up and write you a $30,000 fine. And if you do not pay that, they'll put a lien on your property because of Trump's civil asset forfeiture. Are you starting to see now how all of this fits together? This is the move. This is the play to take away our final freedoms. A surveillance state in which the authorities now don't have to work as hard because everything is through the algorithm. All of their focus and attention will be on this stuff, nitpicking, bang for their buck, targeting. They won't have to patrol anymore because the cameras will do it for them. Now, both sides are in on this, Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter who gets in power until we stand up and say, you know what? We know the scam. We know where both sides are taking us. We don't want any part of this. Even if you don't think you're doing anything wrong. Do you think this 61-year-old grandma thought she was doing anything wrong? It says here, the violations were of Nevada laws, including that a person must obtain a certificate for driving and that it's legal to advertise services. It's illegal to advertise services that require a certificate. Now, who wants a certificate? You know what happens when you get a certificate? They have your name and your occupation and your address. And now, if you don't file taxes for a given year, they will actually charge you for what they think you made. Now, has this happened to anybody? Let me go in the chat here for a bit. I promise you this would be an interactive show. So I need to ask the question. Have any of you not filed taxes for a few years, and all of a sudden you get a bill from the IRS saying, well, you have a license for such and such. You're a licensed massage therapist. You're a licensed so-and-so. And according to our records, that particular license says that you made $30,000 this year, and we're going to bill you taxes on that, even though you did not report any earnings that year. Has any of this happened to you? Is a question in the chat so that people can understand I'm not making any of this up. Unbelievable, this poor grandma. Now, does it make any sense to you for someone to have to get a certificate or a special license? I understand a driver's license and carrying insurance. I get that. But does it make sense that you have to get a taxi or shuttle license for a drop off and a pickup so you can make a few $100s to get by? I don't think anyone in this chat would think that woman should have to pay taxes on that and get all that licensing for a 61-year-old grandma. But yet, this is the country we live in, where the bureaucrats make the decisions. Not anything else. So, yes, we are living in a dystopian cyberpunk realm. It happened to my mother, says Robert, with cigarettes. She was getting them from offline from an Indian reservation. She got a bill. They just send you a bill in the mail. Now, this happened to me recently. I got a bill from California for a year that I didn't even live there. $500 bill. Tonette just doing the jokes here. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep going with this. Let's finish up this story. They impounded her car and a $30,000 fine, and she's scheduled for an NTA council hearing in order to get her car back. She contacted a lawyer who said he'd help when he got back from the burn, but he was not able to attend the hearing. Holland said that this lawyer had been helping the Burning Man community for 13 years, had never heard of a similar situation. So they're ramping up this stuff, aren't they? This is why I tell you guys, a lot of these things are honey traps. They're to draw people in and then take you down. This is what it's all about. This is what our controllers do. They create these events, and then you become the sufferer and the sacrifice. Now, here's what gets me. Then here's this spokesperson, Terry Williams, spokesperson for the NTA. She should be ashamed of herself, shouldn't she? Or it might be a man. Told the RGJ, whatever that is, that they cannot disclose the number of people who were hit with the sting, how long the sting was on for, and when it started. So they're all secretive about it. Williams said it's illegal to pay for paid transportation drivers to operate without the appropriate licensing or insurance. As a law enforcement agency, the NTA's mission is to protect the traveling public, which requires the agency regulate certificated, what's that a word, and permitted providers, as well as take proactive measures to identify and deter unlicensed activity. Now, later on in the show, we're going to get back into this TV series called Continuum, because it's all about this. The police state using technology, a technocracy. It's the whole central theme of Continuum. Now, what else is going on? Well, this is only going to get worse. The more technology that comes online, the more artificial intelligence, the more 5G, the better that the network gets, this will only get worse. The oppression will only increase. You guys, it's a travesty. All the licenses and insurance and special things that small businesses have to carry just to operate. It's like they're destroying the small businesses. Because think about it. On a sliding scale, a small business, all this licensing and all this is a much larger part of their income than it is for a large business. So who's suffering here? The small business. Also exposes these people to harassment by the IRS. So, what else is going on? Well, I know this is kind of a side topic to our main discussion, but all this needed to be stated. So let's go back to the taxi cab. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Here's the comment I left on that story. I said, this is about licensing, taxation, and control. Nothing more. Without a license and insurance, the woman could have worked under the table, so to speak, without having to report her earnings. So welcome to America, where taxation is mandatory, even if you're a grandma trying to make a little extra cash to put food on the table. You think it's bad now? Wait until digital currency replaces cash. So this was the comment I left on that story. And I'll put links to the story if you want to give your feedback about what happened to this poor grandma. But this is unbelievable. Now, let's get back to this taxi cab business, because there's something about the taxi cab and shuttles, isn't there? Vehicles for hire is what this is all about, isn't it? Well, this is the Quantum Leap star again, Scott Bakula. And again, as we said, the first three letters of his last name spell cab in reverse. Guess what? When he was born? On an inverted birthday, October 9th. Why do I call this an inverted birthday? Well, October 9th is the 283rd day of the year in quantum leap years, with 83 left in the year. That would be an inverted birthday. Quantum leap years. Now, I understand that when it's a leap year, the 283 becomes an 82 days remaining. I get that. But the inference here, to me, is pretty direct and pretty telling. So, what does this all mean? Well, it means that this cab episode is very important, isn't it? This cab episode with Trump in it is very important, and I believe that it is the key to understanding the deeper meaning of all of this. So let's talk this out, okay? And this is where we're going to get your guys' feedback here. what does the cab really represent? What does the shuttle really represent? And how does this fit into everything we just talked about? Let's go into the chat, and I'll give you guys a chance to tell me, after everything I just showed you, what this shuttle or cab actually means on an occult esoteric level. Because when this finally hit me and my eyes were open, I was blown away. A cab is a ride for hire, isn't it? It's you in somebody else's car. And there's your clue. There's your clue. Let's go into the chat and see who gets the answer. So this is probably the first time someone has decoded the occult meaning of a cab. Jamie is close. Our physical bodies. I see a lot of portals. A different vessel. Yes, dude. What? WTH. Possession. Marion nailed it. The cab is code for possession. You in somebody else's car. And this is exactly what we've been talking about Trump all along, haven't we? And I think this is why he's in the back of the cab on his mother's birthday. And now this makes all the sense in the world. Whatever spirit was in his mother, I believe, was transferred to him. They are both, and were both, time travelers in the sense of possession. Now, I dug deeper into the taxi cab because you can't just stop there, can you? And this taxi cab thing goes super, super deep. Again, my mind was blown because the original taxi cab were originally small horses that carried the rider. The horse was the taxi. They were called hackneys. Look at this. There are 4 distinct forms of taxicab which can be identified by slightly different terms in different countries. Hackney carriages, also known as public hire, private hire, taxi buses, and limos. Here's the etymology. The word taxicab is a compound word formed as a contraction of taximeter and cabriolet. Taximeter is an adaptation of the German word taximeter, variant of the German word taxonom. Tax, charge, scale of charges. Then they go on to talk about the Greek word to place in a certain order in a battle line. Then it shows the word cabriolet, a type of horse-drawn carriage, to leap or caper. French cabriolet, quantum leap. Also, the word roebuck or wild goat is linked into the word taxi. Horse-drawn for hire hackney carriages services began operating in Paris and London in the 17th century. Let's keep reading. Here, Hackney is a place name. In Middlesex, the name derives from the O.E. Haken's Isle, designating the meadows rising up out of the marshes along the Thames. That would be a swamp. The superior grazing afforded by these meadows made the area famous for its horses, which became known as hackneys. The term designated a light horse, not a small horse, but an ordinary riding horse, as opposed to the heavy horse, which was used for drawing heavy loads ridden by a full armored knight in combat. That name subsequently passed from the horses to a form of light carriage, which was an ancestor of the modern taxi cab. The shortened version, the word hack, came to designate horses offered for hire. This use was eventually extended, figuratively and derogatorily, to hired workers, particularly prostitutes and riders. So, the word hackney, which is the word taxi, is basically a horse that came out of a swamp. You can't make this up. What else did I find? I just can't even believe this. The word neigh, or knee, N-E-Y, hackney. Maybe this is where they got the sound that a horse makes. The neigh sound, N-E-Y. Now, the neigh is also, or the knee is also a Persian flute, an ancient Persian flute with 6 holes in it. Here it is here, the N-E-Y, the last 3 letters of hackney, which again is a small horse used to taxi people around. A horse from the swamp. Wow. Now this knee Persian flute is made out of a reed. So now, are you ready for this? Let's put it all together. A horse from the swamp carrying a giant syringe. Are you awake yet? Now we know why Trump was in the back of the taxi. This is simple word etymology. There's no stretching necessary. There's no stretching necessary. So I think we decoded the root occult meaning of the taxi cab. It's time travel, it's demon possession, a particular demon carrying a giant syringe reed on a horse that came out of the swamp. Now this begs the question. This begs the question about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They're essentially riding on taxis, aren't they? They're riding on taxis, horses. So, why is Trump imploding right now? Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into some of these episodes from Continuum. I believe this is one of 2 scenarios. I believe that this is either chaos magic to continue to honey trap the right so that they can scoop up as many people as they can based on these technicalities, right? They're trying to frustrate the right to get you to engage in illegal activities or to make threats so they can get as many patriots as they can. It's either that scenario or I think Trump will win. And either way, he wins, right? Because if he loses or wins, if he wins, he's going to be the one to usher in the next phase of the surveillance state. Because we're in 5G now, but it's going to go 5G and beyond, 6G, 7G, which will increase the surveillance state. Now, let's hop off of this Trump thing and get into the first couple episodes from the 2nd season of the TV series Continuum. Now, this is a time travel series, and it's all about the surveillance state. It's all about the technocracy. What you're going to hear next are colluding pharmaceutical companies that withhold cures for profit. You're going to hear about street drugs made and distributed by our own government. Let's take a look.
What, they were colluding?
Suppressing cures to sell medicine. This is just the tip of the iceberg. That day, in that building, 5 top executives from big pharmaceutical companies were meeting. Companies have denied that the meeting even took place until life insurance policies on the dead executives were paid out.
Flash hit wide 2 weeks ago. It's billed as your memories on steroids. The drug squad still doesn't know where it's being sourced.
Whenever there's a quantum leap in technology, you're going to find freelancers. I mean, they might not be doing the inventing, but they're at least pulling the strings.
Wow. You just heard him say quantum leap, of course. Now, this part is about where the technology came from. Many of you remember since the beginning of the channel, I've been telling you that all technology comes from the fallen angels. Well, listen to what he just said again.
Whenever there's a quantum leap in technology, you're going to find freelancers. I mean, they might not be doing the inventing, but they're at least pulling the strings.
Why are they after you?
Because they can only do what they do if no one sees them for who they are.
And you pose a threat
Because I know.
They can only do what they do because no one can see who they are. This is why I keep telling you guys, these people in power are all run by the fallen angels. And until you believe that, you will continue to vote. You will continue to give your consent to the madness, to the right-left paradigm. So this is what I had so far. This is the update for season 2, the first couple episodes. I'm going to stay on this through the weekend. Hopefully I can get through the rest of season 2. Wow, what a trip, right? Okay, I'm back in the chat here. See how all this is connected? It's all connected. All right. Okay. Yeah, Woe is right. It's all in peace. Why Fridays are always the best decodes, aren't they? I don't know. It's been happening like that for a long time. Fridays are always like the best decodes. Okay. Kamala's Big Pharma husband, Merck. They're all Big Pharma. All of them. Trump's World Tower is right in the middle of all the pharmaceutical headquarters in Manhattan. Actually, it's the tallest building there. Bill Gates was his tenant in Trump World Tower. You can look that up. Can you believe the occult root meaning of the word taxi? I couldn't even believe that. Hackney. The word hack, by the way, came out of that as well. The etymology for the word hack something came from Hackney, the small horse. I need to look at this word pale again, the pale horse, because I wonder if the word pale it's in Greek, right? Revelation. I wonder if that could mean light horse instead of, whoa, the pale horse, the light horse. I'm going to go back and look up that word. And if I find something, I'll include that in Sunday's decode. But maybe the light horse is the taxi horse in Revelation. But I got to confirm that first. What besides prayer can we do, says Shalala? Well, the Lord's Prayer. Let his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. His kingdom come, his will be done. We're supposed to be praying for the end. We're also not supposed to believe in men. When you start believing in this stuff and you play a part in it, you become part of the problem. You feed into the energy of the lies, and then the enemy gains power through your involvement. So that's about all you can do. And stay awake and endure until the end. All these are biblical concepts and tenets. Everything is in the Bible. So there's no need for fear. At least you're awake. In fact, you should be less afraid because you know what this is all about. So you don't have to fall for the tricks. Think of all the people that fell for the tricks. Do you think the people that went into the crapper hole knew that they were going to get arrested and spend 5 years in jail? Of course they didn't. They fell for the trick. Do you think all these people who bought Bitcoin and cryptocurrency knew they were going to lose all their money? No, they fell for the trick. They fell for the trick. Don't fall for the tricks. So, all right, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for showing up. I'll put links to all this in the pinned comment, as I always do. Give me about 30 minutes. And I will see you guys on Sunday with more episodes from Continuum. Much love, everybody. Take care.